evening to you all. Good evening, everybody, and a warm welcome. My name is Baron Ochola, and I'm going to be the host for our webinar today. Today's session is Climbing the Corporate Ladder, and it is brought to you by Global Leaders. We're excited to have you join us for what promises to be an inspiring and fruitful session on navigating the journey of personal growth and leadership. At Global Age Leaders, we are passionate about equipping ambitious individuals with the tools, strategies, and mindsets to thrive in today's dynamic world. Through our expert-led workshops and through webinars, we foster a space where learning, growth, and meaningful connections happen. Today's webinar is specifically to, we will say specifically, and then we'll say generally, with the juxtaposition. It is not specific to only people who have reached certain level of professional journeys. Rather, it is open to all people at all levels, whether you are starting out on your career, whether you want to understand what it takes to rise through the ranks to the next level. The webinar is for all of us. And it is a timely one, all professionals who are seeking clarity, direction, and momentum in their journey. Through this session, we are going to unpack real-life leadership lessons, decision-making frameworks, and personal strategies that can help you move forward with purpose and confidence. Now, one thing, before I introduce our amazing speaker, one thing I would like to announce is today's session is going to be different from our usual webinars. Usually, we would have a speaker deliver a keynote address. Today, we're going to say, in fact, I should have had the fire loading in the background. What this means is feel free to send in questions to the chat, to the general group, or directly to me. And then we shall have Mr. Paul Mwanga share with us his opinion on these questions. Essentially, I'm going to introduce him, and other than the normal keynote, we shall get into your questions. I already have a few questions that a few of our colleagues sent in prior to us starting this session. So that's how it will go. Feel free to interact as much as possible. You will not be interrupting. I need you to be. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today, it is my pleasure to welcome and introduce our guest speaker, Paul Mwanga. Paul Mwanga is the managing director of Excel Insurance, one of Uganda's leading non-life insurance providers. With over 15 years of experience in the sector of insurance, he brings a unique blend of financial expertise and industry leadership. He is a qualified accountant and insurer, and serves in the Ugandan Insurance Association Executive Committee, where he helps to shape the future of the industry. But Paul, more than anything, is more than title. Paul's journey has been a powerful one of service above self, through Rotary, as well as through family frameworks. Paul's journey offers powerful insights to what it takes to grow, to lead, and to make a lasting impact. And thus, we are honored to have him share his story and practical guidance. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Mr. Paul Mwanga, and I have a question close by ready to get the show started. Paul, good evening to you, and how are you doing today?
I'm very well. Good evening to everyone on the call. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We are delighted to have you here and look forward to the dialogue, the discourse, the conversations that we are going to have. So, Paul, being a fireside chat, I'm going to enjoy this bit. I firmly believe in John Maxwell's principle, the first law of the 21 laws of leadership, irrefutable laws of leadership, which is the law of the lead, especially bringing in the concept that leadership, everything rises and falls on leadership. Let me just repeat that. Everything rises and falls on leadership. The question I would like to start us off with today is, what do you believe are the most important qualities of a leader?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, you should not accept to lead if you don't believe in the cause. Otherwise, you will have failed right from the start. And believing in the cause starts with feeling yourself as a competent person to do the work and being able to go through with it no matter what. Of course, the second is commitment. You have to be committed to the cause. Leadership is a bit complicated because, like you said, everything falls on the leader. A lot of employees, suppliers, and other stakeholders will come and tell you all the stories they want. When it comes to the boardroom and the shareholders, they will not be there to answer questions that they may have told you that they have good answers for. Therefore, in my view, it's feeling yourself confident, competent, being ready to go the journey, and having yourself put in your all. That is what will make you be a good leader.
What I hear from what you're saying, do not accept to lead if you don't believe in the cause, means that one of the first things is you should know your why, right? Which is
Exactly.
a very big topic in leadership. How did you how did you find your why as far as leadership, as far as deciding this is the direction you want? I know you are very intent on being leaders. How did you find your why?
I cannot exactly tell you whether I found my why or not. What I try to do, or what I've been trying to do and continue to do in my career, is to keep learning, keep committed to what I'm doing, and explore ways of being a better person. And that means that there is always continuous growth. I'm always thinking, I'm always learning, I'm always thinking about the business and trying to explore ways of how we can do better all the time. Not just the business, the employees in the business, and myself as an individual.
Thank you for that. That is very true, and it shows how you are. You have the insurance, for example, part of it, the accountancy part of it, but you're very big on leadership, on people. It goes beyond the individual frameworks. The same way you are in Rotary, then you find the need to also participate in Toastmasters, and then you find the need to not just participate but lead. It shows that a question that I received from one of your former employees. I will share her name much later, but she sort of lied and said, "Hey, I know him. I worked with him." And one question she had was, how do you approach growth, both personal and professional? You spoke about lifelong learning. How do you approach growth, personal?
Personal and I beg your pardon, I didn't hear you properly. Sorry.
How do you approach growth, both personal and professional? Let us say, I want to give you about 5 minutes for this one. So let us say for the next 10 years, you know that you will have to be somewhere, you have to get somewhere. How are you going to grow into all of that is required for the next 10 years?
Okay. What I do is I am not very intent of where I want to be in the next 10 years. Nobody knows The world is changing, technology is changing, skills are changing in the marketplace. It's very difficult to say where I'll be. What I try to do every time in the moment is to try and improve myself. And by doing that, I use a very, very simple mantra. When something excites me, all I need to do is to think about it. If it still excites me after 21 days, I know that is something I should do. If I feel something is useful in my business or in my current career, I will try as much as possible to learn it or learn as much as possible about it. And that's why you find that every time I am working, I'll pay a lot of attention to what is going around in my business. And that is how I have been able to learn a lot of other things beyond just my work. Today I'm reading about Toastmasters. When I was reading about how to be humorous. I do not think I'm a humorous person. When I was reading, I now have a speech about trying to incorporate humor in a speech. I have something in my thoughts. And that is how I do it. When I read intentionally and I try and do it. I can tell you, I spent the whole of Saturday reading about cybersecurity. Not that it is something I must learn. Most importantly, it is something that has attracted a lot of attention from my board, and it is something we are trying to think about. How do we do it? What I think is it is better for me when I speak to an expert and I have some idea, as opposed to relying on the expert fully 100%, and it takes you in some direction and you just pray hard that it is the right one. And so that is how I really look at myself. I just keep reading, keep improving myself. Anything that excites me or anything that is connected to the business where I am, I'll be interested. Don't be deceived by that. I look for a lot of ways to relax. I actually relax a lot. I think I spend about 3 to 4 hours doing nothing, just laughing, looking around. It's just that I don't watch TV or listen to radio. Those things don't excite me anymore. Otherwise, I have a very good blend. I'm very pleased with what I'm able to do at the moment.
Thank you for that. I hear what you're saying there, and I like that you've pointed out. I'm very laissez-faire. I try to stick to laissez-faire philosophies. So I will keep saying I like this and I like that, and I'll keep looking for a lot of positive in everything. And today the job is very easy at doing that. I like that you have pointed out as leaders, it's also important to not take ourselves too serious. In fact, we need time where we do nothing, where we relax, where we unwind. Because a lot of times leaders say, what would I call it? Lose sight of the bigger picture. It's a very prevalent issue, and I believe with any picture, when you are too close to it, naturally you lose sight of it. So that is a very good issue of lifelong learning, with consulting experts, but also trusting your own self to find your own knowledge. So that even when experts are speaking, you have a very good idea of what is he saying, what does he mean by this, what does he mean by that. Well, you will allow me to ask you as many questions today because today we really want to pick your mind.
Okay.
I have to note that I am starting from a perspective of how do I get to 20 years from now? How do I get to 30 years from now? How do I become a managing director? And if I'm to be honest with you, I'm not kidding myself. I'm not trying to become a managing director in the next 6 months because I know it is a process to get there. It's not wake up and have it. And that leads to this question. What mindset helped you stand out and rise through the ranks and on? 20 years ago, before you were MD, what you looked and then said, this will get me at least somewhere close to this.
First of all, I need to be very clear. I never set out to be a managing director. One of the things that is very difficult to decide from my experience is sometimes, and these days competition is a lot higher. It's very difficult to say I'm going to be a managing director. Where? Doing what? In what sector? I have spent over 30 years as an accountant, as a professional accountant, 30 years. And I've been doing my accounting work all my life. And I think it is still one of my greatest strengths. Now, to be a managing director in an insurance company is something that was possibly a bit far-fetched for me, something I never believed in. But the most important thing is that having been in the industry, like I said, I have been intentional. Learning insurance, learning how it works, learning how you can improve, being able to do the analysis and figure out what needs to be done, how we can improve, suggesting. And that is what has helped me to get into the role, because as you contribute in meetings, in your work, how you prepare your reports, that is how people notice you. What I think these days is, yes, you may be intentional, but most importantly, you need to be noticed. And that noticing, there are so many people. I can tell you, when you go to an interview, it's not about your skills, your competence, it's about your presentation on that day. And the questions you are asked on that day, nobody knows the experience you've been having. The best is when somebody has worked with you for a while, then they'll be able to tell who you actually are. And it is easier then to make a decision on what else you can go or you can do or where else you can be placed. That's my thinking. The whole thing is, being at the top is be very intentional, learn as much as possible about the business. Any business you are in, I never thought I would be in insurance. I worked, I think, in 12 sectors, if I may be exact. But I can tell you, I have been helpful in many of those sectors, be it health, be it microfinance, be it processing, manufacturing. I've been there, be it audit. And when I speak to somebody, they actually see that I'm a little knowledgeable just beyond being an accountant. And to me, that is what is always helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is highly insightful, and I'm blown away to know you've worked in over 12 software. That gives you a bigger world view than if you were in one sector, which means you bring additional knowledge. Be very intentional. Learn as much as you possibly can about any business you are in, because that's how you distinguish yourself. And the key point there that has stood out for me is your presentation on that day. On that day. For the people who do not understand Luganda, we say this in Luganda and translate it. I believe when somebody says, "Tewali Changa," or because on that day you have not brought out what's going on to him. Okay? But that is very key. It shows that we actually have to be engaged. We have to always be ready. Our audience, we have a wonderful, amazing audience here. I see Sarah is here, Sandra, Precious, Zalia, Leah, Afulu Miriam, Jessica Chitanda, and Okello Fosu. Thank you all for joining today and welcome to this session. Earlier, as we had started today's session, I shared a bit of etiquette, and that is that today's engagement, today's webinar, is not a keynote speech type of conversation. It is a fireside chat. So we want to welcome you to chat. So if you have any question right now, you could put your hand up. And if you do not have one as of now, then what you can do is put it in the chat, get ready, prepare some questions, you can do them. We have one hand up from people. So as we get Lodi on the stage, if anybody else would like to ask anything, add anything, conversation is as free as possible towards the lesson of climbing the corporate ladder. Lodi, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Baron, and thank you, Paul, for the very insightful presentation. My question is around mentorship. From your experience, how have you witnessed mentorship working, and is it a concept that is also applicable to people in senior positions such as yourselves? So do CEOs and MDs and directors also have mentors? And how does that work? That is my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, first of all, I would just like to start with a general statement. To succeed is a factor of three things. How quickly you get a mentor. Everybody needs a mentor. There will always be somebody to tell you something. If somebody does not tell you that is important, if it takes you 5 years, then you'll be having a 5-year delay. The second is how quickly you listen to that advice that you find that you are given. Sometimes we are told to do something and we procrastinate over it. And then, of course, the third becomes how quickly you act on that advice. So you have to find a mentor. You have to be intentional and listen. Sometimes we have them, but we don't listen to them. And after listening, we have to act. And I can tell you, personally, I've had about, I would say 3. Many have had many mentors, but I've had mostly 3. The first one was an American gentleman who taught me accounting even when I was not an accountant. And he told me a very simple thing. I think you can do this work. And I told him, that's not what I do. That's not my profession. And he told me, okay, if you don't want the job, you resign and I'll get somebody else to do it. And that's how I was dropped in the deep end. I listened, maybe out of fear, but it worked. And 6 years later, not 6 years, about 4 years later, I qualified as an accountant because I decided to pursue. I got interested and pursued the career. Then about another 10 years later, I happened to have another board member from the southern part of Africa, and she came and put me on the deep end also. And she told me a very simple statement. Paul, everything that happens in the company ends up in the financial statements. If you cannot explain it, you cannot explain your financial statements. And that's how I was thrown in the deep end. I had to learn insurance. I had to learn reinsurance. I had to learn claims. I had to learn all those things that are involved in insurance. And I was put in charge. She made me a project manager of writing manuals, of doing all sorts of things. And I learned a lot of things in those 5.5 years. What I didn't listen to her about is she told me, now that you've done all those things, read insurance, study and become a professional insurer. And I refused. I said, that's not my job. And I left. And 11 years later, I was appointed managing director. And 1 year later, I was forced to become a professional insurer. So all those things happen in our lives. The third person was a gentleman, also American, who taught me patience. And when I joined the company, he made a statement and he said that I am here. We joined more or less at the same time. And he said, I'm here. In the next 5 years, you'll not believe where we shall be. And every 3 months, he would fly from the US and come and tell us to do 1 or 2 things or 3 things. And then he wouldn't mind so much. You could see he was casual. He was just intentional on what he wanted us to do. Looking back, you could see that every time he introduced something, you could not go back to it. That meant that he had set a standard and we kept moving. 5 years later, he stood up and told us, you remember what I told you 5 years ago? Could you believe it? And nobody could believe it. We had transformed. We had done so many things that we thought are not possible. And those are the 3 people I would say in my life that have kind of molded the kind of person I've become. The first one told me nothing is impossible. Don't fear to read anything. The second one put me in the deep end. He said, if you don't understand your business, you know nothing. Don't tell me that you are an accountant. You are not. And then the third one taught me the issue of patience. Have a goal, pursue it patiently, consistently, 1 step at a time. And that resonates very well with the principle of atomic habits. If you know it, for those who know it, it works very well. And so it is something that has molded me. So mentorship is very, very important. If I'd not possibly met those 3 people, maybe I would not be where I am today. So that's my contribution about mentorship.
Thank you. That should answer the question, Rodi. I believe that answers the question greatly, and for me, it leads to another question. It leads to the question, you mentioned something about atomic habits there, which, while it is a book, the book explains a lot of mental frameworks, mental models. So I can tell that it's one of the models that you use in your life. Could you just explain a bit on atomic habits and how it has affected the ground in the deep end, and you need to kind of walk your way up, as well as any other mental frameworks along the way there?
Well, atomic habits, I want to simplify it in a very simple way. All of us at one point were born, we grew up gradually, we started going to school. We never studied primary school in 1 year. We never studied secondary school in 1 year. It took us, for those who never went to primary school, it took you a minimum of 16 years before you could start working. And that is not a very simple or a very short journey. What used to happen in school, at least for me, there were days I would be excited to go to school. There were days I didn't like the subjects I was reading, and I looked forward to dropping them. And indeed, I did drop a number of them. There were days I felt like I was tired of school, getting to the holidays excited, the holidays ending, and you're like, oh my God, we are going back to school. Yet, we kept going to school. And we became graduates, for those who made it, others completed at whatever level, and we started working. The same thing in our workplaces. We are not who we were on the first day at work. There are many things we have learned. Therefore, Atomic Habits is about patience, one day at a time, one step at a time, one issue at a time. The most important thing is that when you learn, don't unlearn. Learn from it. You can only improve on what you've learned. When you unlearn, it becomes a challenge eventually. And that is the important thing about Atomic Habits. And therefore, when I talked about reading and learning and so on, there are things I've wanted to read, and some have taken me 2 years because I'm busy, because I'm doing other things. Then all of a sudden it becomes so important, and you sit down and in one weekend you read it, marathon, and you complete it. So that is one of the framework that is important. The most important thing is that when you think something is important, keep it on your mind. And one day you will find a solution for it. About the mental framework that I use in my life, for me, I think I would say that I just have what I consider my 3 strengths. One is from my statistics background. My first degree is in statistics. I am a very analytical person. I'll be analyzing this, analyzing that, make sense of this. I know how to make sense out of data. Where people see just facts, I can make sense and make out something. It's something I've noticed over time. The second is I worked as a programmer and systems analyst for about 7 years, and that taught me to be logical. I am very logical. I look for a step-by-step solution to something, and it has also helped me a lot. When something is not working, I will look at the steps and see where the problems are and try and correct what we need to do so that we improve. And most importantly, being an accountant, I understand the numbers. I can make sense of numbers. I can analyze our performance and other things. And therefore, those are the 3, I would say, mental frameworks that I use. Being logical, being analytical, and having the financial acumen to analyze performance from a bottom line point of view. Yeah, so that's what I think about it. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Be analytical, be logical, and understand the numbers. The numbers do not lie. It is in the numbers that the story is told. Like you said earlier, everything that happens in a company ends up on the financial statement. Woke me up. I would like to ask all our guests, and our participant list keeps growing here. I see we have Jonathan Okello joining in. We have Francis Muvunyi. I like that the gender sensitivity is coming in. We had a majority of ladies, and a few gentlemen are joining in. I'd like to ask you all, I see Agnes as well, any questions you might have for Paul, Mr. Paul? You might know him from other facets of the world, from the insurance side, from leadership, from Rotary, from Toastmasters. It is a chat, and I really would wish that we all get the opportunity to say something. So any questions you might have, any comments perhaps? Yes, Daudi, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Baron, and thank you so much, Paul. I have another question, and it is to do with time management. A lot of us here on the call claim to be busy with our routines and even at our workplaces. But as someone who is a managing director, I would assume that your time is also quite consumed in the operations of the company, and that even the activities that you do are very sensitive. By the time a decision comes to your desk, it is critical. And so your time is very precious. So for those of us on the call who are maybe students or employees at mid-level, whatever level we are at, can you share with us how it is that you manage your time to be effectively used in a day to maximize your productivity? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. One of my mantras has always been having an open door policy. And for a long time, in my position as managing director, I had an open door policy, I think for about 4 or 5 years, until I just figured out that at some point it was being abused. Now, when you come to my office, you have to ask to see me. But otherwise, one of the things I like about the open door policy is the fact that you get to learn and people get to know who you are, and different people are able to access you. What I've found is that if you leave a few people to reach you, it means that the others will never get to understand. And many other people will get a different view of actually who you are. They will paint a picture and you will then hear all sorts of stories. That gentleman is like this, like that, and you wonder where it's coming from. So it is very important for people to know you. It is very important that you're approachable. Most importantly is you get to understand different views. You get to understand how people think, what their problems are, and out of that, you are able to craft stories. One, to explain why you are doing what you are doing, to explain why you cannot do what they are doing, and also to explain why you want to go where you want to go. And understanding them helps you to craft those stories. One of the other things is, yes, it is always important. The other thing I try and do is that despite now my closed door policy, if I may call it that, it's still possible to see me. It's not very complicated. If somebody tried to have an appointment with me, I think most of the time I'll ask you, when do you want to see me? And that means that I'm very open to see anybody anytime, unless I'm busy at that particular time. But I start with, when can you make it? And if something is very, very important, I mean, that also happens, but that means that you just wake up and you prioritize it. Most importantly, in my life, I have learned how to multitask. I can wake up in a week and I have 3 reports to write. And I will write them over 5 days, but in between, I am seeing people. And the reason for that is very simple. Why should I refuse to see somebody for 5 minutes when my report is going to take a day to complete? Why don't I solve that 5-minute issue and it goes away rather than keep it waiting for a whole day? And so that's really what I do. I try to be easily accessible. I have learned how to multitask. I can switch between tasks if it is not very complicated. If it is something that I see will take an hour, I will try and figure out how to. I'll give you an assignment to go and think so that you leave me alone and I finish your work. But when I do that, you may not realize that I'm actually busy trying to chase you away so that I can continue with my work. So that's what I really do. Give people the time. If it is a little time, be accessible, create time for yourself where you need to write, say, reports. Unknown to many people, I sit in office. These days, we don't work on Saturdays. If you are lucky, you will find me in office on a Saturday between 9 and 4 p.m., 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. And by that time, I'll have done so much that I can always see anybody anytime. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul, and thank you, Daudi, for asking a question that really brings out a breadth of information. Paul, I noticed it's getting quite late. I just want to ask a few more questions. One is about people and influence, and the next is on legacy. Or perhaps I'll stick to mainly legacy. At this point, and one more question from our audience, but one from me. At this point, how do you measure success? And because it has changed over time, how do you measure success at this point? Where, from my experience of knowing you, you are a leader in Toastmasters. Well, I think if you listen to me, it would be okay. So you are a leader in Toastmasters, and you've been a division director for public speakers in Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. And you've also been a leader in Rotary with Kampala South Toastmasters Club, along with what you already do at work and what you do in the Shuarez Association and the other places to lead. How do you measure success?
I personally, I do things because I like them. I also do things because I want to contribute. There are things that excite me. If something does not excite me, 90% of the time I'll not be there. Interestingly, by the time I'm taking on a leadership role, I'm there intentionally because I'm learning something. When you look at Rotary, Rotary is voluntary. It is one of the few voluntary organizations where you actually pay to serve. You actually pay to become a member, and then after that they ask you, so where can we go and help people? So you pay to belong. It's not the same as how you can say that oh, we are doing a fundraising, I need so much for my wedding. Well, you can contribute, but in Rotary you first belong by paying, and then you start serving. But most importantly, one of the things organizations like Rotary and Toastmasters teach you is leading using influence. In those places, you have no power. And you have to be able to talk to people in such a way that you show them something, justify it. And the most way I would say it is that you make people want to do what you want them to do. And that is not an easy thing, because you want to do something, somebody else must want that thing, and they also want to do it. So there are three aspects of that. And so there are could be so many disconnects. But most importantly, in other places like Toastmasters, you go there, the leadership is fine, but most importantly, you learn. And one of the other things that I've done in my life, for most of the things, be it accounting, be it insurance, be it computer science, one is I have studied them professionally. I have worked to show that I have work experience. And above all, I've gone ahead to teach others about the concepts that are important, what is important, what to look out for. So it's very important that when you take on those leadership roles, one of the things is to guide others. And I think I'm one of those people who learns best by teaching. Because every time I have to teach something, I ask myself, what is the best way to explain this? And I keep looking for examples, looking for ways of doing it. And you find that in the process, you actually become better because you are continuously looking for ways. And you also become very attentive on how those tasks are done or those roles are taken on. Yeah, so that's really what I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for sharing extensively. this teacher, final question that we have from Sandra Chen. I'm going to pair it with the final one I have as well. Sandra's question is, Sandra says, thank you, Paul, for the presentation. How can someone deal with procrastination, which we all know is the very, very big elephant in the room, in a lot of rooms? And the one from me would be, what keeps you going when work gets hard or thankful? Those two would cap off the evening pretty big for me. How does someone deal with procrastination? And what keeps you going? What gets hard or rather? Thank you. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think procrastination is something that I would personally think you cannot put off 100%. I only define procrastination when you have just one task to accomplish. When you have more than one task, I would call that prioritization. What then happens is that you are looking at these 5 tasks and you decide to do one or the other. And so that is prioritization. And when you prioritize, the most important thing is to prioritize in such a way that you meet all the deadlines that are set out for you. Somebody saying you are procrastinating, I do not personally believe in it. There are times when I sit and do nothing. Like I said, on some Saturdays I'm in office. Others, I just stay at home. And I wake up in the morning at 6 a.m. and I do nothing the whole day. Somebody can call that procrastination. I would say that is getting yourself back, getting the rest that your body needs. Please listen to your body. If you think that you are supposed to be working all the time, one time you will collapse. And when you collapse, work will continue. And the moment you have a problem, there will be a meeting to discuss how to continue without you. And so, yes, we go to work, we earn a living from there, we have results to deliver. But the most important thing is that our health is of paramount importance. There's no reason why we do all we do only to collapse and be useless all of a sudden. So really, to me, it's not about procrastination, it's about prioritization. Procrastination is when you have just one task and you have to do it by 9 a.m. and by 8:50 a.m. you are just there seated doing nothing. So if you miss the deadline, maybe yes, you procrastinate. Otherwise, if you have many tasks to juggle around, that is prioritization. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is key. Maybe the final one was, what do you do when, in just a minute, as part of parting shots, what do you do when work gets hard or something? I feel like
Sorry, when work does what?
When work gets hard or thankless. I feel like I could get the answer from where you said that you take time to reflect. I feel like I wouldn't want to put words there, but let me give it to you.
Yeah, so when work gets tough, well, for me, the most important thing always is, I don't remember who the person exactly who said that. And somebody says that when you are given an axe to cut a tree, you spend 15 minutes sharpening the saw, the axe, and then 10 minutes actually cutting the tree. And so in all those difficult situations, and I've seen very many of them, what I normally do is to just sit back and simply look for solutions. What I've either trained myself or just happened accidentally is that there are times when I can even be in a meeting and I am speaking and we are discussing, and I'm busy thinking about a solution to something else. And sometimes people don't realize that, but it is something I've learned to do very well, especially when it is bothering me. I've learned to be there and think about solutions in such a way that when I start, I make a decision on where to go, I know exactly where I'm going and why. I am not the type who is like, I've been told to do this and then I run and I just start doing it. If I don't understand it, believe me, you will get nothing from me, because my answer will always be the same. I'm not very clear, I will give it to you. And that's why, yes, deadlines are important, but unrealistic deadlines don't work for me. You will find that you will not get it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Rotary, and thank you for sharing with us today. And I agree with you. It is better to be somebody who takes time to sharpen the saw rather than jumping into things. Actually, it's called a lot of people do a lot of movements, but they don't do as much progress. So we want to focus on making sure that we are not those people who do too much movement and yet less. To our guests in the room, thank you so much for joining us. And we have come to the tail end of the meeting. So I would urge that you give Mr. Paul Mwanga his flowers in the chat room. If anybody would like to make comment or two, not questions, because we've got a good chunk of questions, a good interaction with the questions. If anybody would like to say thank you, would like to share what you learned, this is the opportunity. Projects, perhaps I could invite you. Are you in a position to speak? In case you're not, I will share your message. Bright Rogers says, Dear Paul, well done. Such an inspiring presentation. And then he asks, what drives you to continue striving for excellence and how do you stay motivated? Unfortunately, I don't know if we shall be able to keep going with questions. Perhaps as parting shots, Paul, you will share something to that. And Leah Mwende Mofisia says, thank you so much. Such an informative session. Definitely a number of lessons to implement. Really appreciate it. I would add this. Paul, if you, I just want to give the people what to ask. So just one last one in a minute, in a table topic about how do you stay motivated to push for excellence?
What I can tell you is that I stay motivated when I like what I do. If something is still interesting to me, I will do it. Most of us will say motivation will do what? Most of the time, we create time for the things that we like. The things we do not like, we don't do them. And I can give you an example. I'm a Rotarian. I get so many flyers about Rotary meetings and Rotary. I'm in Toastmasters. I get so many flyers and information about Rotary and public speak, Toastmasters and so on and so forth. And when I Google, I know exactly where to go. I have told some of my friends that how do they know that there is a singer this Saturday and where they are? How do they know that there is an event called Blanket and Wines? And for them, they know. And that is because they like it. And so that is why I would say that when you like something, you look for it. You look for ways of making it happen. You look for ways of succeeding at it. And that is what will keep you motivated. So once you feel in your inner self that you are bored, you don't like something anymore, think hard. It may be your time to start thinking about another challenge. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul, and thank you everybody for interacting with us today. full of flowers for you in the chat room from Sarah. Thank you so much, Sarah, for that as well. So thank you, everybody, for being part of today's session. We hope that the conversation has new ideas and has encouraged you to take on the next steps in your career, with courage and clarity. A huge thank you to Mr. Paul Mwanga for sharing his generous insights and leadership wisdom that has been a great way to nourish it to go into. About our workshops, at Global Leaders, we go beyond theory. We have workshops that happen on Thursday evenings from 6:30, 8:30 p.m., as well as Saturday morning from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Both workshops happen online, and there is more information about them on the Global Age Leaders website, that is www.globalageLeaders.com. These specific workshops are designed to help you implement what you learn. So it's not only theory, but you will have practical sessions. Some of our programs are personal branding, public speaking, negotiation and conflict management, and a few others, artificial intelligence for business owners and for businesses generally, how to become a board of value. So please check out our programs on voiceleaders.com. It is more of an interactive session, like Coursera, you would think of it. We have experts who speak on different topics. We have peer engagement, and then we also have updated content on the portal that is on the website. So whether you attend physically or virtually, you will be able to experience. For information about our upcoming webinars, as well as which sessions we shall be hosting this coming week, and this current week rather, tomorrow and on Saturday and the following week, please visit www.voiceleaders.com and you will find out what Daudi, Mugabe, and yourself hoping on those things. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Rotarian Paul Mwanga. I'm very tempted to have that as well. I'll see about that. Until next time, keep climbing, keep growing, and keep leading from the front. Thank you and see you, everybody. See you soon.